Okay, so I've got the revolver all cleaned up and all of the components dried. Now it's time to reassemble it. Of course, step number one when you're putting back together a firearm is lubricant. Lubricant is very important. I've discovered this from a guy whose videos I watch. It is a very great all-around lubricant and preservative and protectant and all that kind of stuff. And it came with this squeeze bottle with a little precision applicator tip. And so what I would do was put oil in each screw that I put back in and each one of the interlocking components, and the purpose behind all that is to protect and to lubricate so everything works as it should. And like I said, normally when I put this thing back together, I would put that stuff on every part of it, but I will not do it in this video because the minute I finish with the series, I am going to try to antique finish this revolver, meaning once I put it together for you guys, I'll even demonstrate like how to put oil on it and stuff. I'm going to tear it back down and start the antiquing process of all the metal parts of this revolver to try to antique it and make it look even cooler. But for now, let's go ahead and put it back together. I usually like to start with the barrel assembly, and you would start with the of course the loading lever and the plunger. And this plunger is milled to where the screw only goes in one way. You see the hole on this side, and then you see the hole on the other side is much bigger. That is to account for the head of this screw recessing into the body of the plunger, thus being flush. So what you would do is just kind of start these guys, making sure the right hole is facing out and the teeth of this are facing up. Put all that kind of together, and then get this started into there, and then get your loading lever into place and pull your plunger up to where the screws are lined up. These things are precision milled so that your holes have to be lined up pretty well for the screw to start. And then you just tighten this screw down. As I mentioned, I would have taken a little ballast, I'll put it on the threads of the screw and then put some all over here, and then when I get done I would put some in here as well to just kind of lubricate everything. But there we go, the barrel assembly, loading lever and all is put back together. Now for the trickiest part of the entire thing, the action part of the revolver. This is the trickiest part. We'll start with the hammer. Again, I would put some ballast on all of this stuff here, and maybe even a little on the hammer face. But this is how you would put that together. You would take not the hammer face, the hammer hand. Take the hammer hand with that little pin, and you would put it in the bottom hole milled out on the hammer itself for that. And then you will notice on the bottom of the frame it is milled out. There is a receiver for the hammer hand. So you get that started down in there, and then you would get your hammer started together, and then of course you line the holes up and you run your screw in. So there we go. We'll run that screw in real quick. Never use power tools on any of that stuff either, by the way. You always want to use hand tools because you never want to over tighten anything. So don't ever use a power drill or impact on any of this. There we go. The hammer assembly is together. So now we put the rest of the action together, starting with the bolt. Again, the screw holes are milled to where they only go in one side. This is the smaller hole. This is the larger hole to allow for the screws to recess. So we start with the bolt, which is made to go in only one way into the frame, much like everything else. And we will start a screw. Make sure you're starting in the right side. Get it through the bolt, or the bolt, and then get it started on the other side. And then what I like to do is just kind of get them started. Don't tighten them up yet, because something may not fit right, and then you've got to go back and do it all over again. There we go. So you just want to get them started so everything is in place and the screws won't fall out. Next is the trigger itself, which goes down and sits on the hammer face, and we start the screw in, get it going on the other side. And at this point we can go ahead and tighten both of these screws, because these parts are pretty much where they need to be. Everything's kind of slick because I keep this gun well lubricated, so Even my tools are kind of slick. Again, never over tighten anything on your revolver. Now there we go. Okay, now the next part is to put the trigger spring on. Again, you got to remember the right way to put it on. With this little arm facing down, you just drop it in the slot. This is one of the trickier screws to get started for me because it is so stubby, but with a little bit of practice it goes all right. Sometimes it helps if your hands don't shake. There we go. Now we have tightened down the trigger spring. And now I'll demonstrate why it's called the trigger spring. Now that whole assembly is put back together. We can, well, once we get the hammer spring on, this works better. But you can, at this point, we can half cock, full cock, and then back home. So now, the next thing to do is to get the trigger guard back onto the frame itself. Again, that's pretty simple with these three smaller screws. These guys are all made differently to where these two screws are a little different than the front screws, so you kind of have to know which ones go where. Again, with doing this a few times, that kind of helps with knowing what screws go where. And these, the same as the action, you just want to kind of get them all started. That's the wrong screw for that one. Okay, here we go. Sorry if everything's not right underneath the camera. I'm just kind of really trying to concentrate on everything. Like I said, just get them all started, and then once we've got them all started, then we'll tighten them down. Wait a minute, that's the wrong screw. Like I said, these are the three trickiest screws. They're all, there's two of them that are made different than the other, and it's easy to confuse them, but you figure out pretty quick that screw doesn't go there. Like I said, it makes it easy to work on everything so you don't get the wrong parts in the wrong place. Now that we've got all three of those screws in, we can tighten them all down. And now our trigger guard is in place. So now we will replace the hammer spring, which sometimes will go by hand, sometimes it needs the help of a mallet. Fortunately, it went by hand that time. The next thing we're going to do is tighten down the tension screw on that spring. And there we have all of our action back together. Half cock, full cock, bang. That simple. Now we put the back strap and the grips on. Another pretty simple process. Got to get all the screws out. Again, same thing. Just start all of your screws, and then once you've got every one of them in place is when you want to tighten them down. And this will be the last of the screws. After this, it's just putting the barrel and the cylinder back on, and it's that simple. You know, like I said, practice makes perfect. You do it a couple of times, and it becomes really easy. It's almost a muscle memory kind of thing. A little trickier in front of a camera because I'm working around something, and in some cases it felt like I was doing things kind of backwards or whatever. Those screw holes are not lining up, so I have to adjust the grips to where they do. This is why you don't tighten down any of the screws until the end. There it goes. That screw has started and tight. And again, I would have ballastalled all of these screws as I was putting them back in. I keep forgetting to demonstrate that, but of course that's what you would want to do, is put the lubricating oil on everything, especially your screws, as you put them back together. There we go. Now the frame and the action are all put back together. All we have left to do is put the cylinder and the barrel back on, which is the easiest part. You go into half cock, slide the cylinder on, slide the barrel on, put your wedge back in, and then just for good measure, give it a couple of good taps with the mallet. There we go, guys. That's how you break down, clean, and put together a modern black powder revolver. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know. As I mentioned, there may be a split in the channel, so I can concentrate cigars and guns in one, invertebrates in another. I have some invertebrate videos coming up, so look for that too. But thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up and a comment. Subscribe if you haven't done that. Share this video. And as always, take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great day or a great night. God bless.